the one thing that Chris excels at, I think Chris has vision. And he always had vision for campus ministry and always envisioned it to be something that was growing, that had a dynamic edge to it.
So while working with Chris, I learned that he is a visionary type person. So he came in with all of these great ideas. And so underneath his leadership, CPR started. And so Monday nights, students would gather for worship for I think it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes we would be in there for worship. Also with Chris, he developed the idea of expanding mission trips. So instead of 1, maybe 2 mission trips going out over spring break, he expanded it so that trips were going all over the country with hundreds of students dispersing to various work sites over spring break.
When I became part of campus ministry and Chris was already there, my role was life groups. But one of the things that I have most appreciated about Chris is that he asked me not just to come and do small groups, but to come and be present with students. That's because for Chris, campus ministry has never just been about programs. It's always been about relationships. It's always been about walking with students, discipling students, and helping students to find their place of call in the world.
So Chris and I had the opportunity to go to the first Passion Conference. I think it was maybe 1998, sometime back then, but at that point Passion for the first time met in a field. So we went down to Memphis, Tennessee. It was more like a Woodstock type feel. And so we had tents and we camped in tents, and there were probably anywhere from 60 to 80 students that went. And while we were there, the first night we were there was a huge storm that blew through, and the wind was crazy. Tents were blowing down, going sideways. You know, we were just kind of all huddled in our own tent, hoping we'd make it through the night. And in the morning, and he realized that breakfast was not going to happen, so he drove down to McDonald's and bought out all the English muffins that they had and fed, 80 plus students with Egg McMuffins that morning because our food supply and our campsites were soaked. And so just an example, I think, of Chris's generosity and his ability to think on the fly, right? And deal with unexpected circumstances.
What I remember best about Chris is if we needed funding because something had to happen, Chris went out and got it. He wasn't intimidated by not having the finances to do something. If we needed to add staff, Chris wasn't going to let money hold us back. He would say, we're going to get this done. He'd go out to churches and to individuals and family and connections that he had. And a great part of the expansion of campus ministry was due to Chris's vision, but also Chris's willingness to go out and get what we needed, the funding we needed, and that's no small thing.
We were having an event, and I was trying to talk to people at the place where the event was about concessions and stuff like that, and they would not budge. They would not work with me. And Chris walked up and he said a few words, and he got everything set and everything arranged, and he had always, he still probably has an incredibly powerful network and the ability to bring other people into helping with what's going on in campus ministry.
Chris just models what it means to love students, and he's committed to them, and that showed through in the late hours that he'd spend on campus, the many hours that he would invest in people, the hours that most adults are already headed to bed for the night, and he's there just pouring and loving on students, and his commitment to that is just to be greatly admired.
I love Chris Pieters. I love his family. I was honored to work with him. He took me in. He gave me the role I needed at the time. He was willing to take whatever role needed to this is again a part of who Chris is. I think part of his strength is he doesn't need to be in front. He's willing to do whatever role is necessary to get the job done.
Chris, thank you for inviting me to be present with students at campus ministry. It was really formational for me in my life, and I'm really appreciative of that opportunity that you gave me. Also, I want to say I have a lot of compassion for you because it's really hard to leave campus ministry. I know how painful it is to walk out of a ministry that is so alive and has so much enthusiasm.